Hey guys, it's Marta. Today I wanted to make a wreath. I want to make a wreath from my hydrangeas Annabelle. They are in perfect shape to do that. They still have a lot of lime green color. I'll be making a wreath. You can do it to make decoration for your house or for the entry of your house. I absolutely love that. It's very simple and I hope you will join me today. Let's begin. In one of the previous videos, I talked about how to dry hydrangea flowers. You can do that with all hydrangeas, being the Annabelles or limelights or other paniculatas. Also with garden hydrangeas, so mop hydrangeas, that is also the same way how you do it. So you cut your stem, you remove all the leaves that you have, also the tiniest ones that are just below the flower, the tiny ones. Depending on the flowers, they will be bigger or smaller. And when you remove all of those flowers, you just prepare a bottle with water or any kind of thing you have with like 2-3 centimeters or what is it in inches, like 1 inch or 1.5 inch. I'm not good in inches, but with plain water, and you put the stem into the water. And then you leave it in your house in a space that doesn't have direct sunlight. And you leave it for a week, 2 weeks, and the flower will dry naturally. But if you leave the flowers on the stems, they will dry naturally and then they will start losing their color. They will become brown. That's why we want to do the wreath now, because in a few weeks, when the nights will get colder, the flowers will start to brown. So this is the perfect moment to do that. And sometimes I do my wreaths just cutting the flowers from the bushes, and I make the wreath right away. But they have to be in this condition, because when they are white, when they are just starting to become lime green, it's better to dry them before, and sometimes it is hard to dry them when they are super white. It's better to wait until they are lime green. If you're doing that with your paniculatas that have different colors, it's better to wait for the second color to come. So if you have a limelight, it's better to wait when they get a tiny blush of pink, and with the darker ones you want them to become almost red. And when you look at the petals, they will be shrinking a bit, and this is the perfect moment to do your wreath. Okay, now it's time to collect my flowers. How do I do it? I still want my hydrangeas to look beautiful in my border, so I try to search for the spaces that you do not see when you stand on the lawn. So I'm trying the back of the bushes. Sometimes there are so many flowers I can cut every third one and you don't really see that they are missing. So this is the way to do it, but of course I want to search for the ones that are perfect lime green. They don't have any browning on them. Sometimes if you have a flower that is almost full but there is some brown, I will cut it out and I will still use the flower. So this is the way I do it. The back of the border is the best space to search for some extra flowers. Sometimes when the bush was so heavy with flowers, it's even better to cut some of them. I got some questions if I cut my hydrangeas flowers in autumn or in spring. I prefer to leave them for the winter because they give me winter interest. They are brown, but when some of the snow is coming, they look really pretty, like they are just snow dusted, like with icing sugar. So I like to leave them. But you can, if you don't like that and you don't like some of the flowers, you know, the wind will take them and they will be all over the place. If you don't like that and you want a clean garden in the fall and in the winter, you can of course prune your hydrangeas in the fall. That is also fine. They will be really good. And I'm talking about hydrangeas Annabelles and all the paniculatas. Don't do that with your mophead hydrangeas because they have already they've already got the buds for next year because they are blooming on last year's wood. So we are not pruning the mophead hydrangeas, only those ones that bloom on New Year's wood. When I've collected all of my flowers, first thing I do my prep. So prepping the flowers is very important, because when you start doing your wreath, you're not managing a few things at once, and it's important to hold on to your stems so the wreath looks perfect. So first thing I do, I remove all of the flowers, and if the stems are long, I will just cut them shorter, so like 20-30 centimeters long. Then we'll be cutting even more, and I prep all of my flowers, because when I started doing my wreath, it's important to just grab the flowers and do the thing that I do. When I do my wreaths, I usually use those metal circles, and they are perfect for wreaths, and you can reuse them, because when you're bored with your wreath, you just cut this thing and all of the flowers fall off, and then you can use it again for another wreath. If you don't have those, you can also use some of the stems from your plants in the garden, willow branches, or the Phytocarpus, those long kind of woody stems that are bendable. All of them will be perfect to making your wreath, but it's more difficult to make a perfect circle. That's why I absolutely love those metal ones. They are very inexpensive. I'll try to find some of them on Amazon, and then we'll be needing this. This is the florist's wire, and this is essential to making a good wreath, because it's metal and it will hold to your stems well, because when we are making the wreath, stems are full of water, and when they will be drying out, they will be shrinking. So it's very important to make it very tight so they are not falling off of our wreath. We'll be using the same wire, and we will not be cutting it until the end of the wreath. So first of all, I make a loop, and I try to make it stay in one place, and when I do the loop, then I just do a few circles, and I just always, when I finish my few circles, I always try to make it very tight, and then again making a loop so it stays in one place and it will not untangle. This is the most important thing to make it secure. When I'm making a wreath, what is the most important for me is that I have a hole in the middle, because it's a wreath and not a circle of flowers. So I'll be trying to put the flowers on the outside of the wreath, and if I'm using the same flowers, it's pretty simple. But sometimes when you're using a few types of flowers, it's good to make tiny bouquets and then to make them go one by one. So, but with hydrangeas it will be very simple. I will be just alternating the bigger and the smaller flowers so they look full. I don't want one flower, one flower, one flower. I want them to look very full and very lush. So I will be starting with a smaller flower and a bigger flower, and I will be they're flying all over, and I will be trying to position them going outwards, and then I'll be using the wire to go around. When I'm adding next flower in line, I always remember to turn my wire twice or even 4 times, depending on the amount of stems I'm having. If I'm making a larger wreath, like the winter wreaths, I'm doing sometimes even 5 if I have a lot of sturdy stems. So I'm adding one, I'm adding the second one. So one is the outer edge, and the other will be covering this side of the wreath, as you can see. So we can see it here and here. This will be the area we'll be seeing on the door. And then I'm taking my wire and I'm again doing all of the circles. I will do 4 now, so it's secure. But always remember, when you're doing the last one, like I will do the second, the third, just always do this so it's more secure. As you can see, one flower wasn't secure enough. So again, I'm adding the next one, and I really like to do it outside because now we have such wonderful weather. I can see my garden changing, and I'm taking some part of the garden to remember how wonderful the season was. And those flowers, if I leave them at home, they will stay with me. I've had some dried hydrangeas that I had for 4 years until my cat decided to eat them, but they really last for a very long time. Okay, so I've cut too few flowers, so I rushed to the border and cut even some more. I tried choosing those ones that don't have any brown spots. Few of them are fine, but when you have like a 1/4 or 1/3 of the brown, it's a lot of work to take them out. Of course you can, if you want and you find it really therapeutic, you can do it, but I really wanted a fast video, so I'm not doing that. Okay. Coming back to my wreath. So sometimes some of the flowers will be too big. So then you can use your wire and shape it a bit. If you have something like this, you can see it's definitely sticking out. I'm going through the center of this flower and I'm making it more close to the wreath, and it will look definitely better. Sometimes I do it at the end of the wreath, so I will just make few loops in the spaces that I needed, but sometimes I do it in the middle and then I come back to the same spot and I do it again. A lot of loops. So now it's time for the last flowers. When I'm putting the last flowers in the wreath, I will not be trying to put them the same way I've been doing that through the whole wreath. I'm just trying to put them in the way so it looks good and there are no empty spaces. So the angles will be different. And when I do that, I just take again the same wire and I'm going around in a few spaces. If you look at the back, you will see that the stems are now in a different way. I will be cutting this off, but now it's time to finish our wreath. We will be needing a place to find a good space to make the finish. At the end of our wreath making, we'll be having, you need to cut our wire, then we make a loop, and then we'll need to make a knot. So first, I'm always trying to make it secure, then I'm searching for my circle, this wire circle. I will go with the wire below it, and then something happened on the street. And then I will make a knot, and I try to make few knots so the whole thing is really secure. It's like sewing, you just need to make a knot at the end so everything doesn't rip off. So few knots is always a good idea. I really believe in that the more secure you are, the better. So the finished wreath looks like that. I really like how a bit crazy it looks, but still I think it's a really nice thing to have in your home or at your front door. What I will do now, I will put it, you can make like a loop to hang it, but first of all I like to store it like this. I will spray it with hairspray and I will leave it in my garage where it's very dry and very dark, and I will leave it for a few days so it cools down and dries perfectly, and then I will put it on my door. Okay, so how long will this wreath live? If you leave it in the house in dry conditions, no direct sunlight, it will live for a really long time. I've had some dried hydrangeas that lasted for 5 years, so this can be a permanent decoration in your house. But if you put it on your front door and it will be damp, the sun will be shining on it, it will lose color. It will become brown after a few weeks, depending on the temperature and of course the moisture that you will have outside. But still, I like it. It took me 30 minutes to do, and I really like real flowers on my door in my front way, so I still like to do it. Later in the season, when it's becoming colder, I prefer wreaths that are made from evergreens. They will last for much longer. But if you really put some work into it, you spend this half hour and you want it to last, it's better to leave it indoors when it's dry and when it's not that humid. Okay guys, I hope you will join me in the wreath making. Please let me know in the comments if you have ever made a wreath, what are your favorite flowers to use it, and if you're making your hydrangea leaf, you can tag me on Instagram or on Facebook. You can even put your pictures in the comments, so please let me know. You will find all my details about my Instagram and my Facebook in the description below. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!